So let's start this sketchbook tour telling you this was my first sketchbook I drew. As you might know, I'm an architect, so the first attempt was to draw something, but then I realized that I wanted to draw, and I started using some references. I was starting to get known the comic book Low by Greg Duchini, or also the art of Matteo Scalera, and I was trying to use watercolor and brush pens. Then I realized I didn't know how to draw hands, and I started to draw some characters. I started to practice and try to build like a team of characters, and started to experiment with texture. Then I realized that I didn't know how to draw hands, so I started to draw a lot of hands and hands, trying to practice and also practice texture and hatching and using pictures as reference. This was a month, maybe 2 months that I draw hands most of the time. I was using this Pigma FB, that is a brush pen that is really good. The only downside of this pen is that it ran out of ink very fast, and that's why I started to blend it with some liners, and sometimes getting comfortable with black ink and try to apply it on the backgrounds. So this is how I start to develop my own style, trying things. The eyes on these are too small, and Evangelion, I was trying to draw some stuff like that, also using ink splatters with toothbrush, and starting to develop what it eventually became my style. Mixing more hands. I needed to draw more hands because it was one of the hard things to do. The Joker there. I saw at that time the movie The Shape of the Water, I think is the name. Also trying new textures. That I focus on drawing hands, but I'm weak now on drawing faces and eyes. This robot composition was really good, and I experiment with white ink also. I'm really happy with it, so I decided to go and give it another chance and draw some robotic arms. And this was a really good experience. Then I think this was the first time I drew the Foibos logo, and trying out with new characters, and sometimes I start drawing hands, and this one is I forgot the artist, but more references, trying poses. This is where I just was starting to draw again, and I realized that I wanted to tell a lot of stories with my characters. So for every one of these characters, this is the drawing that gave birth to the idea of the comic book Foibos. And all the characters have their own story, and I tell the story where I post the drawing. So fun fact, this one is like my interpretation of the first drawing I did here on the sketchbook. So I drew all of those pages to finally feel comfortable and draw this character like again on my style, on my own, like making my own. Also there I was planning some posters, some pages and stuff, drawing Batman because I went to my first ever convention invited by a friend, and also some pages for the Inktober where I drew the comic Foibos. And this one is, I think, is the last drawing. I didn't know why I didn't ink that drawing. This is my first sketchbook ever, so I use this Pigma FB and a couple of microns. And remember, you can also get my comic book touch filter in English and in Spanish on my website, and my manga inking and manga screen tone and hatching brushes for Procreate. Cheers, bye bye.